AI tools like ChatGPT, they're completely changing the game at work. They offer these incredible boosts to productivity. But, and this is a big but, as huge companies like Samsung and Amazon have found out the hard way, they're also hiding a massive security risk, one that could cost a business its most valuable secrets. So the real question is, how does a tool that's designed to help you end up leaking your company's crown jewels?
It's a pretty terrifying question, isn't it? But it's one every single company has to be asking itself right now. Because that same tool your team is using to get a leg up, well, it could be training an AI on your most confidential data, potentially putting it out there for the whole world to see.
So, we're caught in this classic tug of war. On one side, you've got this incredible promise. Fixing code, summarizing hours of meetings, whipping up training docs in just seconds. It's amazing. But on the other side, the peril is absolutely catastrophic. A permanent, irreversible leak of the intellectual property that, gives you your edge in the market.
To really see how this plays out in the real world, let's dive into Samsung's story. They jumped on the ChatGPT bandwagon to boost their efficiency, but, well, they pretty quickly found themselves right in the middle of a massive data breach, and it was all caused by employees just doing their normal everyday jobs.
And what's so wild is just how normal these actions were. You had an engineer who pasted sensitive source code into the chat to find some bugs. Another employee asked the AI to optimize some internal code, basically handing over technical secrets. And a third person uploaded a confidential meeting recording just to get a quick summary. 3 simple tasks, 3 absolutely massive leaks.
So how in the world did this happen? Well, it really boils down to some systemic problems. For starters, Samsung just didn't have clear policies on what could and couldn't be shared. The employees, they just weren't trained on the risks. And this is the real kicker. They didn't get that once data goes in, it gets absorbed by the model. You can't just take it back. It's gone.
Okay, let's switch gears and look at our next case study, because this is where the story really builds. Samsung learned their lesson the hard way, right? But over at Amazon, they started seeing the danger signs pretty early on. The alarm bells started ringing loud and clear when their own lawyers noticed something deeply unsettling.
This warning came directly from one of Amazon's top corporate lawyers. They sent out this really stark message saying that ChatGPT's responses were sometimes uncomfortably similar to Amazon's own internal confidential material. That's a huge red flag that their data was already floating around inside the system.
And it was the same story as Samsung. Employees were using it for literally everything. They were improving internal code, trying out interview questions for jobs they were hiring for, creating training materials for their own cloud services, even getting tech support on really complex database issues. The tool had woven itself right into their daily workflow.
And this all leads us right to the heart of the problem. This incredibly high-stakes trade-off that, honestly, every single company is wrestling with right now. How do you possibly balance the amazing potential of these tools against these devastating, company-killing risks?
And the temptation to just dive in is huge. Amazon employees were reporting that ChatGPT could make them 10 times more productive. 10 times! When you hear a number like that, you totally get why this stuff is spreading like wildfire, whether companies have given the official okay or not.
But that's the thing. The price you pay for that 10x boost is a permanent breach. This isn't like hitting delete on a file or wiping a server. Once your trade secrets are fed into a public AI model for training, they are fundamentally out of your control, forever. And this is what creates a perfect storm for a disaster. You've got employee enthusiasm for these tools that is just through the roof, but their awareness of the security side of things, it's dangerously low, way down in the basement. And that massive gap right there, that's where the risk of a data leak becomes incredibly high.
All right, let's pop the hood for a second and look at the technical and legal fine print that makes this all tick. Why is it exactly that your data is no longer yours the second you hit that enter key? Well, it all comes down to the terms of service.
Yeah, it all boils down to OpenAI's data policy. When you use the service, you're agreeing that the company can use everything you type in and everything the AI spits back out to train its future models. Now, they say they try to remove personal info, but think about it. A chunk of proprietary source code or a top-secret strategic plan, that's not personal info. It's corporate IP, and it might not get any protection at all.
And it's not just us saying this, right? Experts are waving red flags all over the place. As Professor Emily Bender from the University of Washington points out, OpenAI is, quote, far from transparent about how it actually uses all this data it's collecting. There's a giant black box at the center of all this, and for any business, that's a huge, huge risk.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the problem, the risks, the doom and gloom, but what do we actually do about it? Let's shift away from the cautionary tales and talk about a practical framework for how companies can actually use these amazing tools responsibly.
Look, the playbook for AI in a company today, it has to have multiple layers. It's got to start with a real, honest risk assessment. What are you actually exposing? From there, you build clear, easy-to-understand policies. Then, and this is crucial, you have to train your employees on those policies. And you back all that up with technical guardrails, maybe blocking access on work devices. And finally, you make sure you're legally compliant with everything, every step of the way.
So if you take away just 3 things from all this, please let it be these. First, never, ever, ever put sensitive or confidential information into a public AI tool. Just don't. Second, your company absolutely needs clear usage policies before these tools are everywhere, not after the fact. And third, this tech is moving at lightning speed. You have to stay vigilant and keep learning.
And I want to leave you with this final, kind of chilling question that experts are asking. After months and months of your employees using a tool like ChatGPT, putting all sorts of things in there, is it possible that a competitor, just by using a cleverly designed prompt, could trick the AI into revealing your private, proprietary information? That right there is the billion-dollar question that should be keeping executives up at night.